Alright, I'm just going to go slot by slot and just talk about how to make similar gear to what I am wearing. Not including the bow because I already made a video on that. So for the helmet, I got this just on day one, probably with a Scroll of Wisdom. Just simple life resist. You're going to make this, and honestly most of the pieces of this build are made with a very similar method. You've used things like greed essences, and hatred, and anger, and rage, and envy. All for life and resistances, because it guarantees one of those mods. Hopefully you hit some of the others, craft one on. That's how you're going to end up with like your starting gloves, your helmet, your boots, your starting belt, which I have no idea where it's somewhere back here, who knows where. But that's how you're going to get like all your starting life resist gear. And then for necks and jewelry, you can't, and rings, not jewelry, belts are good. But with rings, you can't really use essences on these items because they suck bad. Unless you want chaos damage, which is good if you can actually hit good mods alongside of it, but it's kind of hard to get resist cap when doing that. So these are generally made with harvest exclusively until you're working on the influence deck. If you're making a curse on hit ring, which I'm not using because I lucked into some crazy gloves, you get the hunter base ring and you click cast or reforge until you eventually hit the curse on hit that you want, plus some resistant life. For this ring, I made this with a harvest reforged life to get a ring that was kind of close to this. It was like life and like 2 resistances, but the tiers weren't the best. I clicked harvest reforge more likely afterwards, which is a very, very good craft in harvest, and I hit this. I hit a lot of the same mods. The strength wasn't there originally. That got added, and the mods rolled higher tier, and that's fantastic. And that's the way that you're going to craft a lot of gear, is you use mods that get you, or crafts that get you the mods you want, like life and resist. And then if you ever hit, like, you know, life tri-res, but you have T2 life, or sorry, like T5 life. I don't have one to show it what it is right here, but it's called Reforge a Rare. And it's like more likely to get the same modifiers. And that's like a really, really, really good craft for making a lot of this gear. Like the belt, for example. The belt, you're just going to throw into harvest reforge life more common on a hunter base I level 84 or elder base I level 75 to hit the highest tier of percent life. You can also use pristine fossils, and anytime you hit life and percent life, you just want to throw a reforge more likely at that item to maybe hit higher tiers. Typically when I'm going for a belt, I want to see at least T3 flat life and T1 percent life. This one came with the strength roll already on it and no suffix, so I think I blocked like flask effect duration and then hit it with a exalt from betrayal to not actually spend up your exalt on it. Hit a high resist. Exalting belts is like extremely likely to get a good outcome. On suffixes, there's very, very few bricks, so pretty happy with that one. Let's see what else is here. Amulets. Amulets are an important DPS slot. Before you have a hunter neck, you want the new mod they added this patch, which is just global damage over time multiplier. This has no tag, so there's no way to target this mod in particular. So what you want to do is target the mods that you want alongside this mod, like life and resist, and then just reroll a ton, and eventually you might hit one that's playable. All the ones that I've used so far this league are pretty bad. Like, this is like 47 life. This one that I had before is 54. Both of these were just down with ID scrolls. Like, if you just pick up all the necks and ID them, you'll eventually find some garbage with like high dot multi, and then you can like craft life on it or something like that, and that's like a fine starter neck. Eventually you want to work onto a hunter neck, which you make with aberrant fossils and chaos more common. This one I'm going to use eventually. It's like a very, very, very minor upgrade over my current neck. A high tier dot multi is pretty equivalent to +1 skill gems. Eventually the goal, what I'm trying to make, is a neck with +1 chaos and chaos dot multi, and then multi-modded life and increased AoE. Which means I have to first hit the base neck and then annul off modifiers to enable the multi-mod. I've hit the base neck once so far, failed the annuls. I'm sure I'll get it eventually. And if not, well, then I'll use this forever. This disgusting thing that I turned into a talisman and probably shouldn't have, because it used to have 30 strength on the implicit, and now it has crit. Oh, the chest. The chest is something that definitely gets the most questions. The 2 mods that stand out are Frenzy on Hit and Spell Suppression. Neither has tags. You cannot really target this, except just to reroll a ton and hopefully eventually hit it. So you use literally everything. Every essence, every harvest craft, the type doesn't matter, until you hit good suffixes. The goal was not to hit suppression. I mean, obviously, that's a great outcome, but that's an unlikely outcome. The more likely outcome is you use, like, hatred, anger, and, like, wrath essences until you hit frenzy on hit, and an open suffix. And the plan was to get a chest with, like, frenzy on hit and, like 40 fire res, you know, something basic, with an open suffix. And then you would scrub the prefixes, and then multi-mod, life, and life is ES. And then, like, just Leo Exalt the third prefix. And that was going to be the plan for the starting chest. I happened to just hit this one with, like, a Fizz Reforge, but it was 6 mods. I had to annul off a prefix, and I hit, like, the 40% or whatever success on the annul, which netted me this chest. Boots are the actual slot that I plan to get my suppression from, because that's the only rare slot that I'm going to be using of the helm, gloves, and boots slot. The way you get the boots is very similar to the chest. You're going to use resist essences or reforges at harvest, because, you know, fire, cold, lightning, chaos all force a resist roll on boots. You want eye level 85 two-tones, and basically you just need to, like, reroll over and over and over again until you hit 3 good suffixes, which takes a decent bit of time, but eventually you'll hit it. And then you need to, suffixes can't be changed, and veiled chaos. And when I did that on these boots, I hit a 4 mod item, which happens about 60% of the time. The only thing you really don't want to see is a 6 mod item, which is like 10%. So I hit 4 mod, I crafted, I think it was like increased evasion while focused or something. Just, I crafted some garbage mod that I didn't want to unveil to increase the chance of hitting move speed. I hit move speed, which happens very, very often. I think it's over 85% to hit move speed if you're blocking, I think. And if I'm wrong, well, someone in the comments will say that. And then craft life, and then that's these are the plan boots I'll be using eventually. I just haven't got my resist fixed to use them yet. And this is where you're going to get the majority of your gear suppression from, and the rest is going to come from the skill tree. As for quivers, this one was ID'd. The one I used before it was also ID'd, just a little bit worse. Like, it's like T4 multi instead of T2, I think. Before that was also ID'd. But basically for quivers, you just want, like, life and one dot multi-roll. It's super easy to get. As soon as you get a hunter base, if you throw harvest chaos reforges at it, you're gonna hit chaos dot multi, like, very frequently, and then all you need to do is hit chaos dot multi plus life. Hitting chaos dot multi chaos resist plus life happens pretty often as well, as long as you just keep on throwing fossils and reforges at it. The dream is to hit, like, life, damage over time, and chaos damage over time. That takes an absurd amount of rolls, though. It's like, I think when I found one of those in the gauntlet, someone in chat said it was like 700 aberrants or something to hit the quiver that I found in the gauntlet. So that's why I'm going to be settling for a quiver like this. This one helps me change to, like, a different shock avoid setup eventually, but for now, you know, just simple life damage over time multiplier. You make it with life reforges and harvest. You can also use attack reforges, but there's a lot of bad attack mods on quivers, so it's kind of questionable. You really just want to do life, and then I think that's all the gear slots. And then for jewels, the large cluster use chaos fossils and chaos more common in harvest. If it's only reforged chaos and not reforged chaos more common, it's really not that useful for making the large. I would just use those on, like, gear or viridians. For the mediums, ideally you want to use proj damage mediums, which I haven't found yet. I've found like 50 mediums and I haven't found proj. A little unlucky, but that's whatever. If you have the proj damage medium, you reforge caster. Reforge caster gives guaranteed repeater, which is the attack speed and proj damage notable. That's the only caster mod, and you just keep doing that until you hit one other useful prefix notable, which the one that I usually go for is Shrieking Bolts, because that's the highest percent increased damage. But what I ended up with is this Chaos Medium. If you do have a Chaos Medium, you make these with, you guessed it, for this build, it's always the same, Chaos damage fossils and Chaos more common harvest crafts. Viridian Jewels, life reforges are the way for making all of your Viridian Jewels. If you use the life reforge, you hit life like 1 in every 4, I think. crafts-ish, and then eventually you'll just hit a decent mod alongside of it. I think I've made 6 life plus Chaos Multi jewels, and 5 of them were with life reforges, 1 with Chaos Reforge. Also, caster reforges on Viridians forced this modifier, attack and cast speed. It's the only one. So if you're not working on a hunter ring and you have excess caster reforges, you can use them on these jewels to get 1 guaranteed useful mod, and eventually you might hit life. Although I've only made a single good jewel with caster reforges this league. I think that is it. Except for, I didn't talk about gloves because I have these unique gloves, which, I mean, the way you make these is by just being really skilled and clicking like 16 Val Orbs and getting good implicits. That's really all there is to it. I don't know what else to say. But if you're not going to use these gloves, you'd want to use Hunter gloves, probably with like Life and Chaos Multi. And you make those with Chaos Reforge. Weird. Who would have guessed, right? In the end game, you can make a pair of gloves with Culling Strike from Warlord and use a Woke Orb to combine that with Chaos Multi from Hunter and like craft Life. And that's like a decent option. It's a more offensive option than these gloves are. And I plan to use Verity's Veil in the end game. That's why I haven't bothered replacing this helmet, because Verity's Veil is really good. I'm a huge fan of a crit immunity. And I think, alright, that's everything. I'm done rambling.